25 birthday candles would unlock a message from the dead that nobody saw coming. The Ellen DeGeneres show was in full swing at the Warner Brothers studio in Burbank, California. Ellen bounded onto the stage with her characteristic energy, wearing her signature white button-down and navy blazer combination that had become as iconic as her dance moves. The audience of 300 erupted in applause, their enthusiasm filling the studio with the kind of infectious joy that had made Ellen's show a beacon of positivity for nearly 2 decades. "Welcome back, everybody," Ellen called out, her smile as radiant as the studio lights that illuminated the familiar set. Behind her, the backdrop showed the classic blue sky, dotted with white clouds and palm trees, while the iconic white chairs with their black wooden legs sat ready for another heartwarming interview. "We're having such an incredible show today, and I'm about to bring out someone with a story that I think is going to absolutely blow your minds." In the green room, 25-year-old Michael Rodriguez sat quietly, his hands clasped around a small wrapped package that looked deceptively ordinary. Inside that package was a USB drive containing something extraordinary, a birthday message from his father, recorded 9 years ago when Michael was just 16. It was the 9th video in a series that had been both Michael's greatest source of comfort and his most profound connection to a man who had been gone for nearly a decade. Michael's father, Carlos Rodriguez, had been diagnosed with aggressive lung cancer when Michael was 15. The diagnosis came with a devastating timeline, 6 months, maybe 8 if they were lucky. Carlos, a construction foreman who had spent 20 years building homes for other families, suddenly found himself facing the impossible task of trying to be present for a son's entire future when he would only be there for a fraction of it. Carlos had always been a man of action rather than words. He showed love through packed lunches, through teaching Michael how to change a tire, through attending every soccer game despite 12-hour workdays. The idea of not being there for Michael's graduation, his first heartbreak, his wedding day, the birth of his children, it was unbearable. But Carlos Rodriguez was not a man who accepted defeat easily. In the weeks following his diagnosis, while undergoing chemotherapy that left him weak and nauseated, Carlos had made a decision that would define his legacy and transform his son's understanding of love itself. He started researching what milestones mattered most in a young man's life, talking to other fathers, even consulting with a child psychologist about what advice would be most valuable at different ages. Every evening after treatment, when the house was quiet and Michael was doing homework, Carlos would set up a small video camera in his home office. One by one, he began recording birthday messages for his son, not just for the next birthday, but for every birthday Michael would celebrate for the next 15 years, 16, 17, 18, all the way to 30. Carlos spent hours crafting each message, considering what his son would need to hear at each stage of his life. The process was grueling. Some nights, Carlos was too sick from chemotherapy to record anything. Other nights, he would record the same message 3 or 4 times, trying to get the tone just right. He wanted to sound strong and hopeful, not like a man who was dying. He wanted each video to feel like a gift, not a goodbye. The videos weren't just happy birthday messages. They were carefully crafted pieces of fatherly wisdom, encouragement, and love. For Michael's 18th birthday, Carlos recorded advice about becoming a man and making difficult decisions, sharing stories about his own mistakes and what he had learned from them. For his 21st, he shared stories about responsibility and the importance of family, but also about knowing when to have fun and enjoy being young. For his 25th, he talked about career choices and following dreams, drawing from his own experiences as a man who had worked with his hands, but always encouraged his son to reach for something bigger. Each video was a time capsule of a father's love, sealed and waiting for the perfect moment. Carlos even included inside jokes, references to family memories, and predictions about what Michael might be going through. He talked about heartbreak and how to recover from it. about the importance of treating women with respect, about handling money responsibly, about staying close to family even when life got busy. Carlos passed away when Michael was 16, just 2 weeks before his 17th birthday. The funeral was a blur of tears and condolences, but what Michael remembered most was his mother, Elena, pulling him aside the night before his 17th birthday and placing that first USB drive in his hands. "Your father wanted you to have this," she had said, tears streaming down her face. "He made one for every birthday until you turned 30. He said he couldn't be here to celebrate with you, but he wanted to make sure you knew he was thinking about every single one." That first video had been devastating and beautiful at the same time. Carlos looked healthy in it. He had recorded it early in his illness when he still had most of his strength. He talked about turning 17, about getting a driver's license, about the responsibilities that came with growing up. But what struck Michael most was how his father seemed to know exactly what he was feeling, the confusion and anger and sadness of losing a parent at such a young age. For 9 years, Michael had kept this tradition sacred. Every birthday morning, he would wake up early before the calls and texts and celebration began, and he would watch that year's video alone. It had become his most treasured ritual, a private moment between father and son that transcended death itself. The videos had evolved along with Michael's life in ways that seemed almost supernatural. When Michael was struggling with college decisions at 18, his father's 18th birthday video contained exactly the encouragement he needed about believing in himself. When he was heartbroken at 21, Carlos's 21st birthday message somehow addressed the pain of loss and the importance of opening your heart again. It was as if Carlos had known exactly what his son would need to hear at each moment. But this year was different. This year, Michael had received his 25th birthday video just 2 weeks ago, and something about it had shaken him in ways he wasn't prepared for. Carlos had looked directly into the camera and said something that made Michael realize these videos weren't just birthday messages. They were his father's way of continuing to parent him from beyond the grave, but also preparing him to eventually stand on his own. The 25th birthday video had been longer than the others, more reflective. Carlos talked about reaching the middle of the video series, about how proud he was of the man Michael was becoming. But then he had delivered a message that felt like both a graduation and a gentle push toward independence. A production assistant appeared at Michael's side. "Michael, you're up in 2 minutes. You ready?" Michael nodded, clutching the small package tighter. He had reached out to Ellen's show because he needed to share this story with someone who would understand its profound beauty. Ellen had a gift for recognizing the sacred in the ordinary, for helping people process emotions too big for one person to carry alone. Michael had watched Ellen's show for years, often thinking about how his father would have enjoyed her humor and kindness. The decision to appear on television hadn't been easy. These videos were the most private, precious part of Michael's life. But something about his father's 25th birthday message had made him realize that love this powerful was meant to be shared, not hidden away. "Please welcome Michael Rodriguez," Ellen announced, and Michael walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. The studio lights were brighter than he had expected, and for a moment Michael felt overwhelmed by the energy of the room. But Ellen's warm smile immediately put him at ease as she approached for a quick hug before they settled into the iconic white chairs. "Hi, Michael," Ellen said, her genuine warmth evident even through the television cameras. "How are you doing? I see you brought something special with you today." Michael looked down at the small wrapped package in his hands, then back up at Ellen. "I did. This is a birthday present from my father." Ellen's eyebrows raised slightly. "That's sweet. When's your birthday?" 2 weeks ago, Michael replied, and then paused. "But my father died 9 years ago." The studio fell noticeably quieter as the audience began to sense they were about to hear something extraordinary. Ellen leaned forward, her attention completely focused on Michael. "Tell me about your dad," Ellen said gently. Michael's voice grew stronger as he began to share the story he had carried alone for so long. His name was Carlos Rodriguez. He was a construction worker, and he was the best father I could have asked for. When I was 15, he was diagnosed with lung cancer. The doctors gave him 6 months. Ellen's expression immediately softened with compassion. "I'm so sorry." "Michael?" "Thank you," Michael said, then looked down at the package again. "But before he died, my dad did something incredible. He recorded birthday videos for me. Not just one or two, he recorded a video for every birthday from 16 to 30, 15 videos total." The audience was completely silent now, drawn into this story of love that transcended death. "So for 9 years," Michael continued, his voice gaining emotion, "every birthday morning I wake up and I get to hear from my dad. He talks about what he thinks I'm going through at that age, gives me advice, tells me stories I'd never heard before. It's like he's still here, still being my father." Ellen felt tears beginning to form in her eyes. "Michael, that's incredible. What did he say in your most recent video?" Michael unwrapped the small package, revealing a USB drive that looked ordinary, but contained something extraordinary. "That's what I wanted to share. This year's video was different. My dad, he looked right into the camera and said something that made me realize these weren't just birthday messages." "What did he say?" Michael's voice cracked slightly as he began to quote his father's words. He said, "Michael, by now you're 25, and I hope you understand that these videos aren't really about birthdays. They're about making sure you never have to wonder if your father is proud of you. Every choice you make, every challenge you face, every moment of joy you experience, I want you to know that somewhere, somehow, your dad is cheering you on." The studio was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. Ellen wiped tears from her eyes, and several audience members were openly crying. "But then he said something else," Michael continued. He said, "And son, if you're watching this, it means you've made it to 25, which means you've become the man I always knew you would be. But now it's time for you to start living for yourself, not just for me." Ellen reached over and placed her hand on Michael's arm. "What do you think he meant by that?" Michael looked out at the audience, then back at Ellen. "I think he knew that I was using these videos as a way to hold on to him, but that eventually I needed to learn how to live without needing his approval for everything. He was teaching me how to let go while still carrying his love with me." Ellen was crying openly now, no longer the polished television host, but simply a human being moved by this profound story of love and loss. "Michael, your father didn't just give you birthday messages, he gave you a masterclass in unconditional love." "That's exactly how it feels," Michael agreed. "Every video teaches me something new about what it means to love someone completely, even when you can't be there for them." Ellen made a decision that would define this moment forever. She looked directly into the camera, addressing the millions of viewers watching at home. "Ladies and gentlemen, this young man has just shown us something beautiful about love. Real love doesn't end with death. Real love finds a way to keep giving, keep teaching, keep supporting, even from beyond." She turned back to Michael. "How many more videos do you have?" 5 more, Michael said, "through my 30th birthday." "And what are you going to do with them?" Michael thought for a moment. "I'm going to treasure them, but I'm also going to start living the kind of life that would make my dad proud to have recorded them. I think that's what he really wanted." Ellen nodded, understanding completely. "Your father gave you the greatest gift a parent can give a child, the absolute certainty that you are loved, no matter what." The audience rose to their feet in spontaneous applause, not because they were prompted to, but because they had witnessed something sacred. The cameras captured every moment as Ellen hugged Michael, and in that embrace was the recognition of love that transcends death, of fathers who find ways to keep being fathers even when they're gone. The episode aired exactly as it happened, becoming one of the most emotionally powerful segments in Ellen show history. Within hours, birthday videos was trending worldwide as viewers shared their own stories of love that had found creative ways to survive loss. But for Michael, the real impact came 6 months later when he received a letter from a father who had been recently diagnosed with terminal cancer. The man had watched Michael's story and had decided to record his own series of birthday videos for his young daughter. "You showed me how to love my child beyond my own lifetime," the letter read. "Thank you for giving me this idea." That letter led to others and eventually to the creation of a nonprofit organization that helps terminally ill parents create lasting messages for their children. Michael called it Carlos's Legacy, and it became his way of ensuring that his father's love continued to multiply and reach other families facing similar circumstances. The organization provided video equipment, editing services, and emotional support for parents who wanted to create their own time capsules of love. Within 2 years, Carlos's Legacy had helped over 500 families create birthday videos, graduation messages, wedding day advice, and other milestone recordings. Each family's story was different, but they all shared the same core truth. Love finds a way to transcend death when we're creative and intentional about how we express it. Because sometimes love isn't just about being present. Sometimes love is about finding ways to keep being present long after you're gone. And sometimes a birthday video can teach us that the most powerful gift we can give someone isn't our presence, but the absolute certainty that our love for them will never end. Carlos Rodriguez's construction hands had built more than just buildings. He had constructed a bridge between life and death, between father and son, between loss and hope. And every birthday for the rest of Michael's life would be a reminder that love, real love, always finds a way to keep building.